Aging. It's part of many different horror films because it is an intrinsic fear of humans. So, whether films are using it as the primary source of fear, such as
The Relic.
I believe that is about dementia, or to films that use it to comedic effect, like Cockneys versus Zombies. It's used in many different ways, but I think The Rule of Jenny Penn uses aging in a truly terrifying and unique way. Hi, I'm the Unqualified Reviewer. Subscribe so I can hit 500 subs by the year's end. I enjoy watching horror movie trailers every so often to see if I see any horror movies that look good. When I saw the trailer for The Rule of Jenny Penn, I went, okay, I want to see this. Then I saw its ratings on Rotten Tomatoes and went, never mind, I guess it's just another trashy film. But now, about a month later, I decided, you know what? I wanted to watch the film. I was looking for good movies and remembered that it looked interesting. So I decided to watch it even though it didn't have the best ratings. And it was actually quite good. So today, I'm going to talk about the villain of The Rule of Jenny Penn, Dave Crealy. Spoilers ahead for The Rule of Jenny Penn. It was rather good and I would recommend it, even though it is a very difficult watch because it is not a fun film by any stretch of the imagination. First, I'm going to give a brief summary of the film. The film follows Stephen Mortensen, a judge who suffers from a stroke and is sent to a nursing home. Stefan is fairly pissed about this arrangement and acts like an arrogant asshole. Then a dude lights himself on fire. Yeah, he doesn't intentionally do it. He's an old dude who's drinking and smoking and spills the alcohol himself and then, lets the cigarette fall, which I don't think is how that works, but whatever. This serves no discernible function in the plot as it will literally never be brought up again. The only real thing it shows is that this nursing home has security that is on par with the farmer's market. There are, in total, by the end of this film, 4 deaths at this one nursing home, and no one cares. Which might actually just be genius writing on to show how we neglect the elderly and sort of just ship them off when they reach a certain age. Okay, that's depressing. Let's move on. We are then introduced to Dave Crealy. Crealy is an older patient suffering from some unknown mental condition. He has a baby puppet with him at all times that you will learn is the titular Jenny Penn, or Jen Penn. However, it quickly becomes clear that Crealy doesn't have any cognitive impairment. Rather, he is quite mentally sound. He doesn't have Alzheimer's, but he is like a complete psychopath. So I don't know how mentally sound you would call him. After tormenting Stefan and his roommate, a retired rugby player, Tony Gunner Garfield, and killing at least 2 other patients, Stefan and Garfield take matters into their own hands and deliver some good old folks home frontier justice and put an end to Crealy's reign of terror. But why is Crealy a great villain? That's what we're going to answer, because that's what I tend to answer. What makes Crealy great is just how terrifying he is. So let's break down how the movie made Lord Farquaad, yes, that is the same actor who voiced Lord Farquaad, terrifying. This will be broken down into 3 parts, like always, because I'm very basic when it comes to how I write my scripts. Manipulation, actions, and philosophy. To start, Crealy is a master of manipulation. You learn pretty quickly that Crealy knows how to game the system. The fact that he used to work at the nursing home for decades, along with his non-threatening demeanor around the nurses, allows him to get away with anything because, you're familiar with this dude and he's just some harmless old guy who might be a little bit creepy with this puppet on his hand. Also, allowing him to get away with anything is the fact that the nursing home literally just doesn't have any CCTV. None. There's no security in this place. But more than being able to go wherever he wants, the people who Crealy has been tormenting fear him so much that they are unwilling to turn on him, even though they easily could. This allows him to rapidly paint Stefan in a negative light. He uses this to discredit any future complaints that Stefan tries to lodge against him, showing just how good he is at manipulating people. As he essentially torments Stefan complains, there's a witness to it, but the witness is unable to rat Crealy out. He uses words to provoke others so that he will always be painted as the victim in every situation. He watches, always observing, looking for cracks in those he has not already, tries many different ways to manipulate others. For example, when trying to break the judge, instead of outright hurting him, he instead opts to trying to torment Garfield until the judge's conscience causes him to break. The only problem here is that Stefan is a proud man who refuses to give up. But this only seems to give Dave more perverse joy, as this is enjoyable to him. This leads nicely into the second aspect of what makes Dave terrifying: his perverse and twisted actions. Dave is truly sadistic and disgusting, from small things like bumping into other people on purpose, to straight up murder by allowing an old woman to wander out of the facility so that she can fall down and drown in a swamp. All the while, Crealy is smiling and laughing. A large part of what makes Crealy terrifying is just how powerless he makes the other residents. Crealy isn't physically imposing, but he knows how to be an effective bully. By the fact that those who Crealy picks on are so much physically weaker, you, the audience, are left with a profound sense of helplessness, as you know that Stefan cannot fight back. And those that might have once had the strength to stand up to Dave have been so psychologically broken, something that Dave takes great pleasure in, that they are unwilling to even stand up for himself. This can be seen in how he treats Garfield, seeing as he has been doing this presumably for many years to Garfield, and Garfield just takes it or hides because he knows that the abuse will be great. He relishes tormenting those around him, and when Stefan refuses to bow down to the rule of Jenny Penn and dares to try to get revenge on him, we get to see the full depths of Crealy's manic depravity. He assaults another resident, then blames it on Stefan after Stefan hits him with his cane to try to stop the madness. What I think truly pushes Dave Crealy into the realm of fantastic villains is his philosophy. We get to understand this philosophy towards the end of the film, when Crealy is talking to an infirm and broken Stefan. This is one of the most chilling monologues I've seen in a film ever, and I've seen quite a few monologues. Crealy starts by recounting a story. He talks about when he was in his 40s and decided to pick up his second shift at a place in town, and one day he looked in to see who else but Stefan speaking at the podium. In that moment, Crealy was disgusted with himself. He saw the authority and control that the judge had, and recognized that this was something he had lacked. He saw that he had lived for 40 years, but had never done anything with his life. Stefan inspired Crealy. I think you can see this in how he acts. In a way, Crealy is desperate to emulate the control that the judge had in that room full of people. He yearns for the power to make others pay attention to him. This can be seen in the dance scene towards the beginning of the film. Essentially, everyone's dancing on this dance floor, and Crealy comes in, and he starts to just elbow other residents and step on their feet until they all leave the dance floor, and only he is left. That control and sense of power is something Crealy strives for. Had this been Crealy's only motivation, I feel like Crealy could have had a tragic edge. An older man who feels powerless and like a failure, desperate to reclaim some sense of control by bullying those around him, is tragic. But then he says a line that this movie has permanently burned into my brain.
We don't stop playing because we get old. We get old because we stop playing.
What might have started as a way to maintain a semblance of control for a man who felt like a failure has become a game, Crealy delights in the pain and psychological torment of those around him. In Crealy's mind, this is all a game. Even when he kills others, it's still all just a game to him. Crealy is a truly terrifying character who is a sadist, pure and simple. And this makes him one of the scariest villains I've seen in a long time. He is also just wonderfully acted. I would recommend The Rule of Jenny Penn. It is a fascinating examination on the nature of bullying. And yeah, it's just a really fun movie. Not fun, but a really good movie. Very interesting. Yeah, please do like and sub. It means a lot. Also, please leave recommendations for any other movies you think have good villains. I would love to talk about them. I'm always looking for new content to explore. Again, I really appreciate everyone who's subbed and everyone who watches. It means a lot to me. So thank you guys so much, and peace.